All right, gang, so check it out. The beloved new Tundra has got a few issues. Just got back from a big ass trip up to the Grand Tetons in Wyoming and towed the camper, which fully loaded is probably 7,000 pounds ish, well under the rating of the truck. And I've been running into this problem since before the trip, actually. I believe this problem began when they replaced the windshield. So in the back, we're sitting at about 45 and an 1/8, thereabouts. While in the front, we're sitting at about 45 and 7/8, maybe even 46. So here's the problem, is that this has the Pro Comp 6-inch stage 2 suspension on it, as purchased from the previous owner. You can see the whole drop system there and the big ass coilover shocks. But unfortunately, there is no more adjustment available on the top of those adjustment nuts. You've got all these threads down here and you cannot lower the front anymore. So that's completely useless for adjustment. So the truck does have the rear leaf spring spacers, and it's got all 4 plus the big leaf in there. It's got the add-a leaf, which would be this one right here, and it still sits entirely too low. So I don't want to have to lift the back of my truck up. I want to lower the front of the truck down because it's just way too damn high as it is. But that has proven to be an incredibly difficult, challenging thing to overcome, trying to find the right parts to do that with. Pro Comp is not helpful with it. Their customer service was good, but they don't have the parts that I need to get this thing fixed right. So I'm really scratching my head as to why they would have built and designed a suspension that doesn't allow for you to adjust the front down at all, or down to where you need to be. I mean, I could adjust it to lower the I could adjust it to lower to put bigger tires on, but you can't adjust it down anymore. So what are we gonna do about it? So this is the solution that I've come up with. Fortunately, the TOYTEC company in Denver has produced these Super Bomber brackets. I'm sorry, I'm at the end of a long day of work. Anyway, they have produced these lift shackles for the rear end of your truck. So these are 1 to 1.5 inch, depending on which side of these you put the bolt in. So that's what I'm gonna try to get knocked out and done and installed today, and try to bring the rear end up to make it level, because when you have the trailer on, for sure, it drops it even more, as you would imagine. And I do have a low distribution hitch, but still. So this, if I can get it up 1.5 inches above where it currently is, that'll put it with about a 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more of rake forward leaning, which is what this truck needs as it sits naturally without even having the trailer on. And so once the trailer gets on, that will help things out as well. All right, so here you go. That's what you get. They sent me a couple cool stickers. That's awesome. And yeah, some nice grade 10.9. Oh dang, metric even. Sweet. Bolts and a nice little catalog, and these beefy units. So these are 3/8 inch thick plate steel with a nice gusset in between, and laser cut or CNC cut, laser cut, one of the two, and nice coated up real well. Should protect it and last a good long time. Now here is the original. The originals are right here, and you can see how how short they are. Now, when I take these off, I'm going to keep them on hand because hopefully at some point in the future, if I can find the solution to lowering the front end, which at this point all I can imagine is going to be involving replacing the entire front suspension. So that's real cool. As of right now, I don't see any other way to resolve that. So at some point, hopefully, maybe I can put these shackles back on. But in the meantime, you can see just how freaking beefy these bastards are in comparison. Super nice, quite a bit thicker, and freaking huge. I mean, like, I measured it out a couple days ago, and yeah, it's gonna be I think they're like 4.5 inches right now. It's gonna be over 7.5 inches. So I think there's over 3 inches, but because the axle is not centered on the leaf pack, it's a little bit forward. You're not gonna get a full amount of lift out of it. Anyway, God, just fucking rambling. Anyway, so let's go try to get these damn things installed. I'm gonna have to lower that spare tire, and hopefully it rides a lot more level. All right, post installation. Now in the rear, we've got around 47 1/8. Thereabouts in the back. And still 46, practically right at 46 in the front. So we got about a 1 1/8 of an inch lift net gain in the rear. Okay, now as far as the installation goes, if you have the TRD Pro exhaust system, this is an AFE power dual exhaust. If you have the TRD Pro, on their website, TOYTEC, they advise that will have to be modified. I kind of got away without having to modify it, barely, and I've yet to actually take it out and do any flex testing on it, but you can see it's pretty damn close. So I'm hoping that it's probably going to come down a touch. I may have to extend these or something like that and lower this down a little bit, but on the road, it's not a problem. But there's the installation. You can see how much bigger and beefier and bulkier they are. Nice big hardware. And in order to get this installed, what I did was I just used my high lift jack. I opened up the window here, put a super thick moving blanket, double thick, double folded over right here to protect the tailgate, and I used the high lift jack right inside here, which is a good thing because, of course, as high lift jacks go, I had it off a little bit and it kind of tilted and came down and touched that. So anytime you're dealing with high lift jacks, you got to set up some precautions. Anyway, so I used that to lift this maybe 4 to 6 inches or something. I didn't lift the wheels off the ground, obviously. That was after chalking the front tires and setting the brakes, but I lifted it high enough to where I could get my just my little Toyota bottle jack in between here and here on the frame, and so that enabled me to crank those up and then remove the high lift jack. And once I did that, you know, it was just kind of a matter of using the pry bars and stuff to kind of position it right. But yeah, the bottle jack method worked pretty good. You can get this thing installed in your driveway, no problems, no real issues. Okay, so I installed these things night before last, and took it out, test drove it, checked it out. Right off the bat, you can definitely feel a little bit of a higher lift. I mean, it's almost imperceptible, but you can detect it. And instead of riding where your rear end sagged back a little bit, you know, now it feels just a teeny bit forward, which feels proper and appropriate. Don't ask me what those dudes in Carolina, California, whatever the hell, the Carolina squat people are doing. I cannot comprehend it. Donut Media has an awesome new video on whether or not that shit should be illegal. because some of those states are trying to outlaw that shit. Anyway, it don't feel right, it don't look right, and so now you're back to actually feeling normal and proper and appropriate. So I don't know why the rear end with the lift sagged as much as it did. I had a few emails back and forth with one of the tech guys at ProComp, and he sent me some photos of Tundras with this lift kit installed, and it's not saggy in the back. So that tells me that either with the ARE top that's on here, it's probably weighs 200-300 pounds maybe, that's staying on long enough, you know, might have sagged those springs over the last 2-3 years that it's been installed. Secondly, perhaps the guy towed a huge ass boat or something like that, or a large RV, and perhaps he stored it, or, you know, he just left it parked like that for a while and just had a ton of weight on it. For whatever reason, those rear springs sagged down quite a bit. It doesn't make sense to me. I thought that it was missing. I thought that the lift blocks that were installed were the wrong ones and that they needed to have larger ones. But the ProComp guy, through the photos and stuff, confirmed that nope, they're supposed to have those 4-inch ones, and then the Adaleaf is supposed to level out this suspension. Well, in my case it didn't. So now that you kind of understand what the problem was, my theory is back to the part about this brake failure and crash collision avoidance system errors that I kept throwing is I believe that if the truck isn't tracked, you know, with a forward rake or at least level going down the road, that the system can't detect, I don't know, the road lines, the curbs, the street itself, and the other vehicles and stuff on it. And so even when I didn't have the trailer on, which exacerbates the problem even worse, right? I began throwing those codes. And so in order to clear those codes, I would reset the battery, just disconnect it for a few seconds, maybe a minute, and it would generally go away. It would go away for, usually, if I disconnect, this is gonna be a long video, but if I disconnected it and I just started the truck, if I didn't turn off the truck and I'd go for miles and miles and miles, I could drive half a day and it would never throw that code. It was only after I shut down the truck and then started it, usually 2 or 3 times, that after the second or third restart, it would trip that error within 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or something like that. And so I don't know exactly why that is, but it was a problem I couldn't seem to overcome. So my theory was that when they installed the windshield, they didn't go through the trouble of calibrating the sensor here in the windshield, because that's what some of the forum posts, you know, were talking about. But then fortunately, this truck was supposed to be into an appointment today with Toyota, but after dealing with this, after setting up the shackles and trying to level out the truck, I canceled the appointment. And until it throws that code again, I'm not going to set up an appointment. So I've run it for 2 days now, probably 10 different starts, and probably, I don't know, 40 or 50 miles, and it has not thrown the code again yet since. So there's my theory, is that unless the thing is sitting level, the system won't work. Which seems a little bit problematic, being that as soon as you hook up a trailer, you may, let's say you're hooking up a really heavy utility trailer or something like that, and you're just running across town. You know, you might have your front end sticking up a little bit high. It's not your permanent ideal setup for towing trailers, and you know, but it's going to be a problem. So if the freaking system detects that the nose is too high and it can't read the road, and then it kicks off the brake controller on the few instances that you run your trailer like that, I mean, that's a big problem. That's freaking ridiculous. Now, if you're driving, you know, if you're running an RV or a camper or whatever, and you don't have your suspension set up properly to compensate for that on a regular basis, then that's on you, and you probably need to, like what I'm potentially gonna have to do is put airbags in the back of this truck. And that's the next kind of step that I think I'm gonna have to do, because if the 1 inch that I got gain out of this lift, as soon as I put my trailer on here, it's not gonna be level still. It's gonna be more level than it was, but I'm afraid that this problem is gonna rear its ugly head once again, and we'll be kind of back to the same problem when the trailer's on, which is fine. It's when the trailer's off that I need it to freaking function and operate normally, okay? So that's pretty much in a nutshell, the solution to this problem, and hopefully it fixes that. For now, for now it seems to have, and I'll keep you posted in the comments or make another follow-up video. Now, if you found this video because your system is throwing that code, you may have this same type of scenario. You may have any number of other problems, which could be, you know, the sensor behind the emblem is bad, any number of other problems. An ABS wheel sensor is maybe potentially going bad. There were all these things that I was afraid of that that Toyota itself was going to have to fix, but fortunately, hopefully, I think I kind of outsmarted it on this instance and got lucky, because this is kind of one of those scenarios also that it's like the dealership mechanics, this isn't a stock truck anymore. Although I bought it from Toyota with the warranty as it is, unless they're real keen on, hey, your suspension is a little bit higher in the front and lower in the back, they might not even have been able to find a solution to this problem. They might have kept throwing new sensors or whatever in the emblem and keeping my truck for days on end. So this is one of those scenarios where it's like, you know, it's on you, and you kind of have to figure shit out. You can't just depend on, you know, the dealership to figure it out. But anyway, that's what's up now. If you're interested in what my problems were with the AFE power intake and the follow-on problems I had with that, which I've been trying to eradicate also, which began on this trip, stay tuned, because I got a whole other video coming out about that. But I'm hoping that I've got that fixed, and we shall see. So I'm gonna hook up this camper, take it back to Salt Lake, and check out and see how much of a sag I got going on with the camper installed. So stay tuned. Anyway, that's it. Long video, but hopefully some information that you could use. See you on the next one. Later.